Well, hey everybody. This is the very first edition of what I'm calling the Ask Think Imagine podcast. I feel like I need a clapping cue. Some cool people have those. Anyway, this is my friend, good friend, Matt Anderson, who has been a good friend for a very long time, and he is one of the most creative, just people I've ever met, and has a unique ability to blend uh, art and ministry or art, creativity with the truth of God's word. He has had experience in multiple fields, whether it's chairman of a dance company or public speaking, preaching, teaching God's word, writing articles, writing books, has a breadth of experience. And I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. And I'm going to be asking Matt some of the questions I'm going to ask everybody. But before I jump into that, Matt, anything from that that's a very 2000, 20,000 foot view of your bio. Anything you want to share about your heart for ministry or what you've done or your bio that you don't want to leave out?
I probably would only add the angle that I was in youth ministry for a number of years,
Yep.
and that was that was kind of my first love
Yeah.
in ministry was working with students, and did that on a lot of different levels too. And that plenty of opportunity for creativity comes in youth ministry. You
Oh
have
yeah.
you have to have it all the time.
Yeah.
So or someone near you who does.
And
And
honestly, that's where we first got connected was through youth ministry. I was a youth
I
pastor.
yeah, Yeah, that's true. And I was in charge of the youth department for the state
Right.
for our denomination, and really was making connections with youth pastors all over Ohio at that point. So still, in a sense, pastoring at
Right.
that point in time. So
Right.
yeah, but that was a real meaningful time.
That's awesome. Well, I was just floored, Matt. I know I've blown up your phone like what, 5 times now, but I'm just gonna say it again for the context of the podcast. I was just floored at the excellence level of this podcast about Jonestown and the mass suicide and the Jim Jones story. I just vaguely knew.
Right.
And it blew my mind. You told it so well. You included interviews and sound effects and music and just great story form that I just was blown away by. And I know I said it in text, and I just want to tell you and I want to tell the listeners that, you got to go on Matt Chat. Go on Spotify, go on podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, and look for Matt Chat. And there's no space, right? Isn't it just
Yeah.
MAT?
Well, it's Matt Cast.
MattCast, sorry. That was your old blog name. That's why I said that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
so
But it's
Matt,
all one word. All one
I've
word.
done that so many times. Matt Cast. So sorry about that, listeners. Matt Cast. But you'll see it on there. It's like a 13-part episode. It is so in depth. You get the angle of not just people who suffered, but congressmen who was trying to get to the bottom of it, like parents and relatives, the
Hmm.
concerned relatives, I think they called themselves, whatever they were,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all of these people that the story so deeply affected. And yeah, man, I just was really impressed. So I know you'll probably talk about that today, but let me
Yeah.
just jump into a couple questions I want to ask everybody that I'm going to interview. What work of art are you super proud of that you made in the last few years? And you can feel free to mention a few as we go about.
Yeah. I'll start with I wrote one novel, and it was centered on Christmas,
Yeah, I love it.
but I think just the fact that I did it, um, it's I joke with a friend when I was in process of doing
Uh-huh.
the novel, I just thought I'm never going to get through this,
Yeah.
and I told a friend, I said, I now know why so many writers are rampant alcoholics. Because you're like, I'm never going to work this out.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm never going to work this out. So the fact that I was able to, and because it's Christmas, I can sell it every year.
Hmm.
And So a lot of people have bought it, and so it's been the most successful thing I've done.
It's awesome.
So really proud of that.
I really enjoyed it. I read that one on my Kindle. It was the first book I ever read on this cheap little,
Hmm.
remember like the $39 Kindle? It was
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
cheapest one. I wanted my kids to be able to have one and not have to buy like not do the iPad thing. And
Mm,
I remember that was the very first one. It's a great story.
mm.
I've been again, that's one thing that it's blows my mind that you can come up with the characters and the story and all the things. It's incredible. Talk
Thanks.
to us about talk to us about this recent project, this big
Yeah,
one that when I was just mentioning, like, oh my gosh, 13 parts and every single episode was like
yeah.
had
Well, one
so
of the
much creativity to it.
something that has evolved with this podcast, because it's now I've been doing it almost 6 years, believe it or not, and it's like taking on different variations. And what it now is in the moment, we'll see what next week holds. But uh, we're we've always been speaking to artists in this podcast
Hmm.
uh, because I in the church we don't do a really good job of communicating to artists. We don't know how to do it.
Hmm.
They scare us. Um, they're by nature a little off the reservation.
Yeah.
So often we just don't know what to do with them.
Hmm.
And so they can often feel very disenfranchised in church. So we try to talk to creative people who are believers constantly and encouraging them to not just do art that works in church, but that works in the marketplace,
Right.
that would be, you know, accepted and appreciated. So we're always trying to do that. And then if we're not illustrating it, we're then demonstrating it.
Hmm.
So then it's like, okay, now I'm going to put myself out there and we're going to do a series telling a story and and then the listener can decide if they like it or not.
Right.
And just that's what every artist does. We put it out there,
Yep.
not knowing what's going to come back.
Right.
And so that's what we're doing right now with MattCast. So we're not just talking about it, we're doing it.
Yep.
So the most recent season just ended, called Heaven on Earth, and which is, I think, the people who were part of it were looking for. I think Jim Jones was looking for other things, but uh, being able to tell really his story, but also the story of those people.
Hmm.
And it was one of those that as I went into it, and I just recorded an episode today that's coming out in a week, talking about my agendas that I had for the podcast.
Okay.
And one of them was to talk about socialism
Mm.
and Marxism, which was absolutely central to what happened in People's Temple, but
Hmm.
no one talks about it. It
Hmm.
never gets mentioned. And it's so
So even
blatantly
in like
obvious.
other documentaries or
No.
articles, it really gets kind of left behind.
Oh,
Which
totally.
which
It's
based on, I mean, everything I heard in your entire series there, it was centered around that. It was
yeah.
centered around we are our own savior. Now to him, obviously, he portrayed himself as the savior. Yet yeah, it was really rooted in socialism.
Yeah. And he learned it from his mom. So it was with him from childhood.
Yeah.
But it was I mean, he did twist it a bit because it was about adore me.
Hmm.
I'm the target of adulation.
Hmm.
Whereas usually Marxism is about worship of the state.
Right.
It's ultimately where it goes. But in Jonestown, it was worship
Yeah,
of the
it
leader.
morphed. It morphed. Well, I think this real the real sinful nature that was always in there,
Yeah.
what a lot of psychologists call the alter ego, that thing that was down in there kept gradually revealing itself.
And he was smart enough to not do that too quickly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it
exactly.
it took a few years, but then
Well,
he
otherwise the
started
persuasion couldn't have happened.
right. And that's how all cult leaders do it.
Right.
And eventually he was saying that he was God
Yep.
and he was going to heal all their diseases. And um,
That little bumper where you have that quote
yeah.
on every episode, every time I heard it, every single time, I still was like, just
And you listen
it
to it and you're like,
is shocking.
that wasn't enough for a red flag and it was for some. because
Sure.
he lost a lot of people along the way because they're like, I am out of this. But he was fine with that. He only wanted the true believers.
Well,
And
I want to
yeah,
circle to something you said just a couple minutes ago, and I know it's a kind of a perfect segue to question six, but I'm just going to jump ahead now. You said, you've always wanted to inspire Christians and Christian artists to make art that not just the church can enjoy and embrace, but even the world would say, "Hey, that's good. Like that's quality stuff," and
right.
I enjoyed that. Um, Yet it's also a challenge to bring Christ into it and not feel like you've A, compromised or B, pushed away your secular audience. And I just want to say as
Mhm.
songwriters, we talk about that. Like I've been to this one conference in Los Angeles for songwriting. I've been like 8 times, and it's a secular conference. It's not a Christian conference, but I learn a ton. And in a couple of the times that when I'm talking with people there and songwriters and artists there, I've mentioned this very idea that, yeah, I've got about, I would say, 7 songs I've written for my wife out there. One of them's a little 5-song EP. Two of them are kind of just snuck into the worship albums, kind of a last track, what we used to call 30 years ago a bonus track, right?
Mm.
Back in the 90s. But anyway, my point is like, and it's something you and I have talked about at Cracker Barrel over the years, is that the blend of sacred and secular. And I talk about that a lot in my Ask, Think, Imagine book is there's not such a distinct line. Like we all think, the sacred happens on Sunday and that's it. And I just don't agree. A lot of the times, and I've had even songwriters and people, politely questioned me on this before. Yeah, but like all music, it has to be for God. It has to be, and I'm like, well, when I release a song that I love my wife and I'm committed to her and I'm faithful to her, I mean, she's mine, that glorifies God. That is,
Sure.
it's emulating everything Paul talks about in his epistles, uh, for couples to treat each other with faithfulness and longevity and commitment, and these things are that are biblical are expressed in a love song. So it's not so separate. um and I say all that to add one more thought. Where I was originally going with this is this: at the end, I think it's like episode 11 or 12. I want to say 11, but correct, you'll know it. You know it like the back of your hand. But one of those late episodes, you said, now this actually doesn't have anything to do with Christianity,
Mm.
even though Jim Jones says he's a Christian pastor.
Yeah,
And you just like out of
yeah.
nowhere, you just like
I kind of slipped her in there, didn't
you
I?
slipped in there, and it's great. No, but it was great because I thought, man, that was so wise because it wasn't off-putting. You didn't like go into some 3-part sermon
Right.
at all. All you said was, hey, real Christianity, and I can't remember how you worded it, but it was like real Christianity would never do this. Jim Jones is making everything about self, and the whole heart of Christ is others first, not self first. And
This
those who are
is
truly following Christ emulate that. But anyway, speak to that idea of
sure. And
integrating
yeah,
faith into something where you're telling such a big, broad story. You just want people to get it and be, entertained, enjoy it, but ultimately be moved somewhere in their faith.
yeah. And I try not to like shoehorn it
Hmm.
in. Um, I don't want a square
Yeah,
peg
yeah,
round
you can't
hole
jam it in
thing.
there just for the sake
Right.
of, oh, like we have to have it.
But for the incident you're referring to was on what's called the death tape. And it's the recording of what's happening when they decide to
Yeah,
commit revolutionary
which
suicide.
is so sad.
And he goes, it was said by a prophet from time immemorial, no man takes my life, I lay it down.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I thought, okay, here he goes, and he's trying to attach himself to Jesus, even though he doesn't believe in Jesus. He was an atheist, by the
I mean,
way.
it's
He was
so
he was
wild.
always an atheist. And I thought this is a perfect opportunity for me just to say, by the way, he's referring to Jesus, who has no part in these proceedings,
Right.
kind of thing. So that was a natural opportunity to kind of like come in and do that. I learned a lot of that, Jordan, from my 12 years working with Inlet Dance Theater and serving on the board and as
Right.
chairman, because I would see what the founder and the artistic director, Bill Wade, would do when he would talk to our donors or audiences. Now, he was very upfront and he would say, "Hey, I'm a God guy."
Hmm.
And he would just kind of throw that in. And, but he wouldn't start necessarily, you know, extrapolating Romans 6.
Right.
Uh, but it was kind of the thing where people could go, okay, then you have to
Yeah.
decide what to do with that.
Right.
But then you weren't going to be surprised by what you saw on the stage, because much like your song to your wife, what was being done on the stage was life affirming. Clearly, it touched on universal truths
Right.
that are rooted in God's word.
Right.
And 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 you just get it. And
Hmm.
that's why I loved it so much. And it kind of taught me that as a pastor, you have to talk a certain way, right?
Hmm.
We have the baseball bat and we're going to use it.
Hmm.
And that's part of what we do when we preach,
Yeah.
and we're going to bring it.
And that's the role, right? The pulpit
It
is like we're
is.
preaching God's word. This
Right.
is the gospel. This is what Christ did, and this is the truth about even when it's nuanced subjects, when it's like this specific subject, it God talks to that, and and that's our job to share it, and
Right.
it shouldn't be compromised. And
Yeah.
but go ahead, sorry.
And when we're on different stages, and it might be a mostly room of people who don't believe in Jesus,
Right.
then you know uh, we want to, like Paul, to the Jew I became as a Jew
Exactly.
that I might win the Jew.
Yep.
So that I really learned a lot from doing that, and I think it's helped my
From the
preaching too.
dance company, you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and being able to speak to people who probably would never come to my church,
Yep.
but do it in such a way that people I can like bring people along with me,
Yeah.
and without compromising.
And don't you think that's such a huge need in the church?
Yeah.
That's again a big part of what this Ask, Think, Imagine book is about. That's why there's so many contextualization questions and stuff like after each chapter and stuff like that is because I don't want people to just go, "Oh, cool, I'll tell my pastor about this." No, like what is the work of art that you can bring to the world and
Right.
that people are going to enjoy? And let it be used for God's glory. And it doesn't mean you compromise. Like when I remember talking to a room of artists one time, and I used that verse that you just said.
Mm.
To the Jew, I become, Jewish. To the Greek, I become Greek. And to the Gentile, I become like Gentile. And I asked him, was Paul saying, um, I'm going to compromise. I'm going to compromise my
Right.
values. No,
Hmm.
no. He wasn't compromising his values, but compromise can be a good word. He was compromising his preferences in order that they understand who Jesus is in a way that they understand, you
He was
know?
going to speak their language.
Yeah, speak
And
their language.
it's the same reason why we don't have missionaries only speak English
Right,
and we send them to Thailand,
right.
and same deal when we're dealing with mission fields all over the place, and whether it's artists or whatever it is.
Yep.
We, and that's what I had. I had to like let go of my, we call it Christianese.
Yeah.
But by the way, every subculture has its own
Hmm.
syntax. We beat up on the church for that. Everybody has that.
Totally.
Everybody has their little initials, their little abbreviations
Uh,
that, and you're like, what are they talking about?
yeah,
Because it happened when I went into the dance world. It was a whole different glossary
right,
that I had to learn. But then once I learned it, I could talk from that glossary
right.
and begin to not talk like, you know what I mean? So it's stupid little things like we would have a social,
Uh,
and uh, I wouldn't come up and say, did we all enjoy that time of fellowship?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, and you're like, hey, did everybody get some nosh? You
Yeah.
know, and it's just
Yeah, it's just
it,
different.
it's a different glossary. And I had to learn that and then speak out of that. I always tell people it's almost like those Australian actors who do an American accent.
Right.
And you got to kind of concentrate because it doesn't come naturally.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of become a part of me, though, to this
Yeah.
point, that even from the pulpit, I kind of do that a lot more
Yeah.
than I used to. I think I talk more in that mode. Um, so I don't want to strand anybody.
Yeah, but
in the
just
room. But
acknowledging what we're saying and talking about it and saying it's needed
yeah,
is important because like Paul, he's an artist and he's making tents. He's a businessman.
mm,
He doesn't stop doing that. At least from what we understand, like sure, there was probably weekends where he's going to crank out five more tents than usual because so and so took care of all the preaching or visitation or whatever it was. And then there was other times when he's like probably hadn't made a tent in a month. But it doesn't mean he
right.
stops making all of his art. He remained. In fact, there's a couple spots in the New Testament where he's like, "Hey, I'm good. You don't even
Mm,
don't take up an offering for me."
mm,
Why? Because one, he says in I think it's Second Corinthians, he says, the last church I was at, hey, they took care, they were above and beyond generous, so don't even worry about it. But I think there's times too where he's alluding, he's like, I'm good. You don't need to take an offering from him. It just makes me wonder, like, he's like, my business is good. You don't need to. I mean, okay, this is ironic. I just told a pastor this yesterday, Matt. Just told a pastor this yesterday because I didn't know the size of his church. And I just
mhm,
said he was booking me for something in April. And I said, hey, just so you know, God's taking care of me financially in this season. I'm in. I said, I want you to not do an honorarium. Oh, Pastor Jordan, yeah, we're going to do that. I said, no, I said, I'll leave that for other churches. I said, but just for this one, I feel like letting you know, let it be,
mm,
let it just be a blessing. Well, the only way, or I say the only way, one of the ways I can do that is because I've been pursuing my work of art. I've been
mhm.
releasing the work of art and doing the diligent part of actually, like you said, the finishing, which is hard. Like
Yeah.
finishing that novel is hard, or finishing the podcast when you're like, oh my Lanta, I'm at episode 8, and there's still so much more to go.
And I had a couple of those, I had a couple of those gaps,
Yeah.
and I ran into a tough spot, I think in August. And I think I'd only done episode 6,
Okay.
and I was just like, and
I'm brain
I
tired.
was under a lot of warfare,
Hmm.
and um, I didn't have the energy. I just thought I can't do it right now.
Yeah.
But you're leaving everybody hanging. Um, and there, I would love to say, so I got up there and I just did it, but I let a few weeks go by.
Well, so can we speak to that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know this is gonna make a 3-hour podcast if I'm not careful, but I have to speak to that because one of the things I talk about is something I learned from that conference in Los Angeles, from all of these, Grammy winning producers. I mean, I heard it every year. They would say, "Hey, walk away from the song before you're done.
Mm,
Don't take your first Friday, Saturday, or your Monday, Tuesday, whatever it is, and you're mixing and you're editing, and you get every snare and kick and harmony perfect, right? And then you send it to the client, done. They're like, never do that. Now I've done that many times. I know I have. So I've broken the advice, but my point is what they say, and I try my best to apply it, which is walk away from it for a minute. Now they're saying walk away from the song, but I want to zoom out and just say sometimes you step away from this work of art and it's a needed refresher. So in a music production world, the phrase they use is you're giving your ears a break. You're giving them a break from the volume and you're giving them a break from the repetition of this is how the song goes. Well, if you give your ears and your brain a break for a week or even 2 weeks, you come back to this thing, and this has happened to me many times, where I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? The tambourine is obnoxious loud in this bridge. And here 2 weeks
mm,
ago, I thought it was perfect, you know?
mm,
But now that I have fresh ears, and that's the phrase they use, they have fresh ears because you're taking a break. Um, there's a different approach. And so sometimes taking a break is wildly needed. So talk to me about this because this is one of my questions anyways. This is a perfect segue. Talk to me about the difference of man, I need a break. You need a break. Um, oh, there's so much I want to say right here. There's been times I've been recording and I know I'm getting it done
yeah.
and I'm getting a little bit sloppy because it was like 1 in the morning. I've had a couple times where
Hmm.
my logic was like, it's like my alter ego was like, hey, Jordan, you need to be done.
Yeah.
because this is not going to be the best it can be, right? Like that's wise. So it's
Hmm.
wise to stop doing the work. At the same time, if we want to do anything, if we actually want to release our work of art to the world, there comes this point where you have to get in the office and get her done,
Yeah.
right? So talk to everybody that's listening about the difference of those two. When for you as an artist and a creator that you've noticed the difference, when was it good that you took a break, or do you know what I'm talking?
Yeah.
Speak to me about that whole like discipline and diligence thing.
I'm usually really good at once I get in the submarine, we're going across the ocean
Right,
and we're going to do it. I think the nature of my life right now, because I have a side hustle that can take up a lot of my time.
right.
Um, and I sometimes I go through seasons where I'm doing that so much, I almost can't devote any time because I'm just trying to like pay bills and
Hmm.
inflation's inflation uh, and I think that's what hit me at some point, and it was tiring me out.
Yeah,
It was frustrating me. I was frustrated with the Lord. Why does it have to be this way?
right,
Why can't I just get up every morning and go to my computer and start creating?
right.
Uh, which I've said a couple of times over the years.
Hmm.
So that was happening. That was happening at the time. So there was one point, I think I went a month between episodes. And a lot of it was just that. But then you feel defeated because of it, so
Exactly.
it
Yep,
piles on.
yep.
So I think whenever I had that next day off, I just was telling myself, here we go. We're
Yeah.
doing it,
And isn't that a choice thing? I mean,
totally.
that's what I speak
Oh,
to in the book is I've had times when and it's definitely more so in writing a
mm,
book, way more so than a song. Because a
mm,
song's 3.5 minutes, right? Like
okay.
the inspiration can stay, but there's this thing for artists, and I almost need to draw it out. I want to draw it out for the book. I'm glad I haven't released it yet because it's almost like if you could imagine a curve and tell me if this is how it is for you. At least this is how it feels for me. Your inspiration is up, right? When the idea comes,
Oh yeah. I mean,
right, you're
well,
you're you're on
we
cloud
all
nine.
love
You're like,
starting.
this is the best
Sure.
idea of all time,
Yeah.
right? And you feel that way and it feels great. And I'm not disparaging that. It's awesome. Like
No, we
especially
need
if you
that.
feel what's that?
We need that.
Yeah, you have to have that. And especially as believers, like if you feel like this is a God idea, that's where the word inspire comes from.
Mm,
It means breath, And so it's this you feel like, man, the breath of God is in this idea. Well, then there's this dip of actually making the plans to make it work. It's
yeah.
not as inspiring to go do some of the work. But then you make some progress. So now you're back up. You're up high and you're like, man, I feel good. I knocked out 3 chapters or whatever it is. Or like in
Mm,
my case, it's like I knocked out, man, the drums feel good, the guitars feel good, the bass feels good, right? And then there's been times when like the BGV's canceled twice because something came up. So now we're at a month later, and
mm.
now I'm like, how'd that song go again?
Oh yeah. Now you got to
Right?
recapture that whole thing. Yeah.
Like
What was I
4 weeks
thinking when I
ago,
did that?
the song was
Yeah.
unforgettable, and now you're like, huh? Which project? Eh,
I was doing a
where
song.
where do I even find that in my computer? Right?
Right.
Well, then comes this, right? So now you're down here, and you're
Mm,
like, man, this is going to be an uphill battle to walk up this hill to finish this art, to finish this project. And I'm just saying to everybody listening, it is. And that's okay. Like, we have to push past this feeling of drudge or, oh, this part's boring or
yeah.
I don't want to be an editor. I just want to be a creator. Like, I know that about myself. I love creating. I hate editing. I love creating. I hate editing.
Mm,
But what I keep reminding myself is in most cases, you have to be both. Like, yes, some people can go hire the editor or hire, like it's even in the music world, they'll hire another engineer to come in and fix all the drums and fix it, make everything
Mhm.
perfect or whatever. But in most cases, like we got to do our own editing, most of us, like 99% of us. And dude, that's what I call the work of art.
Yeah.
Pun intended, it's freaking work. And
Yeah, it
so
is.
that's why
Yeah.
I esteem artists who actually publish and it actually the book comes out, the song gets released, the movie gets done, or the building gets built, or the church gets planted, whatever the thing is. And there's so many
Hmm.
hundreds and thousands of options of things. But like in your case, that's such a big podcast. The podcast got done. And it's amazing. But I guarantee you had to push past some days where you weren't as inspired.
Oh my word. Every episode took about 40 hours to do
Oh my gosh.
because it's so highly produced. And then all the research, because you're trying to decide from this very big story.
Hmm.
Because there are lots of subplots that I didn't include
Right.
in it. Because you'd be like, well, does that matter?
Hmm.
And you like, no, there's no like connective tissue to it, so you got to
Right.
let it go. But that takes a lot of time
Right.
to figure out. And you're doing the research and then sometimes you're reading sources that disagree on who pulled the trigger, and you
Yeah.
know what I mean. And you're like, oh my word, I got to find who did that,
Yeah. Right.
because you want to be as accurate as possible.
Right.
And so but every part of it, there were kind of like five different parts that each took 8 hours.
Yeah.
And so
That's
yeah,
so
there were
much. That's
yeah,
so much work. Let's just call it what it is. That's
yeah.
work, bro.
So when you sit down and you're like, okay, now we're at episode 10, and I've got my books out. I'm like, and whew, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
you're like, oh man, here we go.
Right.
Because it feels so far away from home. And because then you can start writing it, which again, that's another, you know, I'm such a slow writer. It's unbelievable. Even when I'm writing a book, it probably
Yeah.
takes at least an hour to write a page for me.
Yeah. I have these weird, I know you sometimes get in the flow and every writer does, but there's such a weird, what's the word? Maybe conundrum's the right word, but like there's sometimes where I'm like, I got to, and I felt this a lot. I mean, how ironic is it? I'm writing about, hey, the child has to employ the steward because the whole concept of the book is ask like a child, think like a steward, and imagine like an artist.
Mm,
Right. And so the whole book is that. So throughout chapter 6, 7, and 8, I'm saying over and over, hey, it's awesome that you, with your child hat on, had the idea. And it's awesome that as an artist, you were imagining that it was going to be great. But now it's time to put on the steward hat and get it done.
yeah.
And you have to do that. The artist has to employ the steward. Um, and at least that's, pun intent is like I have to put the child hat off and I have to put the editor hat on, the steward hat on. And dude, that's hard. Like I had to do that again, ironically, for this book, Ask, Think, Imagine, because I
Mm,
dedicated, it was like 20 Fridays. And I thought for sure I'm going to get done. Right?
mm.
I wasn't. It was 10 months. 10 months before I came back into this studio to make a
Wow.
song. And I kept telling Danielle, I can't wait to get back down there. But I would be at chapter 7, or I'd be scrolling back to chapter 2 to clean up something. And next thing you know, I'm figuring it out. And, all these points where I said, when Paul said, I have to go make sure I get the actual perfect reference. Cause like you said, you have to get it right. You can't
Right.
get it
You got to
wrong.
get it right.
And that takes work. It takes time. And it's just like, um, and you know what's weird? Even at the release of this podcast, even like right now in real time, I'm not on the I'm not over the freaking hump. I'm on the
Right.
last part going up. It's still work. Like I've got another minimum 2 Fridays to put into this, like two
Mm,
6-hour days and probably some late nights where I've got some things that I just know need clarified. and I have to push past that. And again, I'm not saying I'm not excited I am excited to do it, but it's not anywhere near the excitement of I have an idea. Oh, here we go.
Right.
What you feel when you start out. And so I just think it's important for artists who are listening to this and creatives. And again, a lot of you might be thinking, well, I'm not a creative. No, if you're a Christian, you are called to be creative because you're made in the image of God. And I know that's
Mhm.
that's what I'm speaking to a lot in this project, but I just going to tell you, maybe you haven't read the book and you're listening to this and you're hearing me and Matt talk. Well, and you're just going to come up with excuses like, well, I really am not. Maybe you have some great ideas and maybe you started them, but maybe you just need some of those habits and disciplines. Like bro, Matt, I was forcing myself to go in and edit and look like some days I had 3 and 4 hour blocks just to look for spelling,
Yeah.
just to look for grammar. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because
Isn't
I'm
that
kind of like,
sexy? You
it's like,
know?
yeah, there's nothing exciting about that.
Right. And that's the thing. And that's a lot of folks because anything that you have to do, anything that has to be completed is going to involve stuff like that.
Yep.
It's not, I've known a lot of, even let's put it in ministry perspective. I've known a lot of church planters who were so excited at the beginning
Right.
and they got their domain for their website and
Hmm.
they got their artwork, for their branding
Yep.
and 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 I would watch them and I would hope that when the euphoria of that wears off
You're right.
and you eventually have to get into the week by week roll up your sleeves of ministry
Yeah.
that they'll still have the same enthusiasm.
Yeah. And
Because
and the truth is some don't. The truth
no,
is
they
they get
love
to
the
launch.
trappings. Yeah, they love the whole,
Yeah.
you know, we're changing the website, they
Yeah.
they love that. And you're like,
Right.
okay, great, but that's not that's not going to impact Sunday morning.
Right.
And when you're writing, when you're podcasting, whatever it is, uh, there is that moment when you go, wow, I don't know if I signed up for this.
Hmm.
And and you just go, wow, I don't know if we're ever going to get through
Yeah.
all this. And it's the whole, how do you eat an elephant? You know what I mean? One bite
Yeah.
at a time kind of thing.
Yep.
So it really is a lot of that. And it's not, you said inspiration, but I think inspiration is there 15% of the time.
Exactly.
It really is perspiration.
It's perspiration all the way.
Yeah.
That's why I love some of these business books and like self-help books. Like when I read like Phil Knight from, Shoe Dog Knight, the
Mm,
founder of Nike and stuff. I mean, he's talking about perspiration a lot. He's talking about long days, figuring
mm.
it out, working out the problems. And if you're going to create something special, I'm sorry, it's going to take a lot of work. And
Yeah.
I love that we got here in this podcast today because a lot of artists or let's just say creative people who just say, okay, I have this creative idea, we just want to encourage you like, hey, buckle up, like decide now that you're gonna follow through because that is the difference. Like I remember one time in a business book, man, like a year or two ago, I read this execution. What was it? Execution beats inspiration every day of the week, or execute. Oh, it
Mm,
was execution beats ideation every day of the week.
mm,
And it does. Like we
mm.
all can have 1,000 ideas, but what actually makes your art an impact in the world when you complete it, when you actually get across the finish line. And we want to be able to say, like, hey, we gave it our best too. Like, that's a good feeling. Um, and can I be really honest? There's a couple times, and I can even think of the songs, I will not name them, but there's been a couple times, and I hate saying this, but there's been a couple times when I've released a song, and later I'm going, I rushed that.
Mm.
I didn't go back. I knew like my gut was to go back and re-record that guitar part, but I was like, it's good. It's fine.
I think when there's sometimes some people feel like the only way they get things done is if there's external pressure.
Hmm.
Like let's say it's a commission
Yeah,
or you're under contract to do this for
right,
somebody to write a song or
right.
whatever. And so, okay, you're gonna get it
And the
done.
deadlines can be good because you do get it done.
It can be.
Yeah,
But then it could go through what you went through in that situation.
exactly.
And then the flip side is because most of the time we're just working for and with ourselves,
Right.
and it's all us. And we're the master of our own fate
Yep.
and our own world. And so we have to decide, am I going to be creative today
Exactly.
or this week? And no one else is going to, you know,
Right.
you shouldn't need your mother.
Right.
You have to be able to tell yourself, okay, man, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to do it. Now, I always found that it may start off that not so fun. But for me, now, once I get going,
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll,
there we
and
go.
I, I'll tell you how that, this just happened to me last Friday. I was editing a song for this guy named Armani, and I just love the song. It's phenomenal. And but I tracked the drums on it, and I'm not the greatest drummer. So I'm a decent drummer. But let's just say this, when I hire my session drummer, his name is Jeff, I don't have to edit anything. He's
Yeah.
phenomenal. He's like, it's perfect. Like you just look at it and you're just like, it sounds perfect. It looks perfect. It's just perfect. And when I play, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go in there and man, it's like painful moving everything, what looks like a 32nd of an inch, and it's not fun. But again, like once it was done
Right.
and I play it back and I'm like, perfect. He's gonna love this, right? And I sent him the mix and he's loving it. So my point is there's this feeling of there's this tension of you got to complete. Like
Hmm.
in fact, in a book called Myths of Innovation, great book, an author named Scott something. I read it a couple years ago. He said the biggest takeaway from the book was innovation is never innovation unless it's released. Like innovation is not an idea. Innovation is when the team came together, everybody executed their role, and that product or service was made available to the market.
Mm,
Now we can call it innovation. And I thought that was
mm,
really, really wise. But that's my point, right? As at some point you have to finish, but at the same time, and deadlines are good, you have to finish. However, there's times when you got to step back and just go, okay, it's not as great as it can be. And I
hmm.
know that. Like if I know that in my gut, I've learned I have to take some more time on it. And again, the couple times that I can think of a couple songs, and thank goodness it's my own songs, it's not other songs. I can think right now of two songs that whenever I hear them, every time I hear them, I'm like, they're not quite the volume and they're not quite the clarity that they're supposed to be, like everything else is on the record. And I know I was like just I was getting it done. And
Mm,
that may sound like not artistic of me, but that's just how my brain leads or leans is I love to crank it. I love to work, right? And like deadlines are good for my personality, for my just the way my brain
mm,
works. But I've had times where I it's over and I'm like, I should have slowed down. I
mm,
mean, that's happened to me so many times. Like some artists, if you put this on a spectrum, they're over here. They have like 20 ideas and they've never done anything with any of them.
mm.
I have the opposite problem. I'm like, every idea, I'm like, put it out there. Every song, I'm like, record, and
Release.
release. And that can be good, but anyway, it's a lot of good stuff to think through. And I'm glad we're landing here that if you walk away from this episode and you're like, well, okay, I think I learned something. Me and Matt are hoping that you do tap into the inspiration and you do take the initial steps and you do believe in yourself. Absolutely. But you also realize it's going to take work. Like, you know, whenever I'm done with an album, excuse me, I have to put it through the mastering process. And guess
Mm,
what? That's not fun.
mm,
That's just looking at decibel meters and
mm.
frequencies. Like it's not the same as writing a guitar part. It's the non-fun part. And then I have to
Right.
go on the distribution website and I have to look up the copyright and I have to look up who's the performance rights organization. Are they with ASCAP? Are they with BMI? Like none of that
Right.
is fun. None of that.
Right.
It's so freaking boring, Matt. When I go to upload an album, I have to say this song is 4 minutes and 21 seconds. This
Mm.
person is this ASCAP. And I have to ask the songwriter, hey, what's your middle name? Because it's like all these things that are not fun,
Yeah.
but you got to do it.
But you got to do it. Yeah. I mean,
Otherwise, there's no art.
that's like with in podcasting, you have to do the show notes.
Right.
And so I had to track down every audio source that I had. And for episode 12, that's the really long one. It's
Yeah.
an hour and 20 minutes.
Yep.
I used 100 audio
Oh
clips.
my gosh.
And so
Talk about work.
you got to track all that down and because you want to be able to say here's where they all come from with
Right.
links and that way it's all there. But you're right, it's because you're almost done. That's the thing. You're so close to being
Right.
done.
And that's why I need to draw this out like just in Photoshop or in Apple Notes or something. Just like this spectrum of inspiration and then work, and then I'm
Yeah.
going up. I'm on the mountaintop right now. I've got all this inspiration. Everything feels like downhill. Woo! But then you're like, I'm in the ditch, bro. There's no inspiration down here. And you're just uphill. You got to work, 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 work. I would say that biggest incline for me anyway is right before it's done.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you agree? Like it's like
Yeah.
that biggest. It's like in cross country. I used to run cross country, and I know the listeners are probably tired of the metaphors. I think I'm on metaphor 5 now, but
It's better than me talking about my cross country running, actually. So,
well, anyway, it's like that last eighth of a mile. Oh,
mm,
it hurts. Your
mm,
ribs are hurting, and but that's when you got to kick in. You
yeah,
gotta run as fast as you can, as hard as you can. And if you give up there, like you just ran 2.9 miles for
yeah,
for no reason.
right. Well, that's true. And so like the biggest episode of the 13 is 12.
Yeah.
And because I made the decision, there's no delicate way to say this. I'm putting all the death in one episode.
Oh, I know it's so sad, dude. I actually,
Right.
do you know I teared up?
Yeah. I did too while I was, yes, I did too.
Bro, and that's another testament to how well you did your work because I was standing there and I was tearing up, man. I was like, this is so sad.
Yeah. And I
The loss of
decided
life.
I don't want to string that out.
Mhm.
We're going to do it all because it all happened on one day. So I thought we're just going to, here we go. And just plowing through all that was, and you're like, oh my God, they haven't even left. They haven't even left Jonestown yet.
Yeah, well, just trying to
They got to
leave the
get to the
airport.
airstrip.
Just trying to leave the airport and the children
Yeah.
part. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
That's the part. Well, I don't want to give it away. No spoiler alert. I'm not
Sure.
gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that guy. My daughter does that in movies. Oh, it's the worst. She's always like, "Watch this. The guy with the mask. He kills them."
But
Thank you.
just doing that episode, that was probably 80 hours for that episode because it
Wow.
was very long and very emotional
Yeah.
and um and yeah, and you're like, oh man, can I do this? Can I really get through this?
Right.
Because you put it off. I mean, you're not looking forward to documenting this
Hmm.
too, right? Um and so it's easy to delay that kind of stuff
Right.
when you have to do a really the dark part of the story.
Right.
Um, but that's what storytelling is.
Right.
And you just have to push through it.
Tell you that final part.
And then, it was cool. I had an emotive reaction in the midst of editing.
Hmm.
And I had to like back away from the computer a little bit and just
Yep.
like, you know,
It's so
um,
sad.
and you go, okay, this must be effective because
Exactly. Yeah.
it's,
And what a
yeah,
great feeling too, right? Like
yeah,
that's anytime like you're really moving the heart, you're helping people to think and consider. Um, and in our case as believers, hopefully they're putting all of that through the lens of eternity and faith in God. I mean, that's priceless.
yeah,
That's like what art should be doing. Art should be moving the heart, not just, you know, making the mind think. It should move us in some way. Well, let me ask you just a couple final questions.
Sure.
Maybe make this part more of a rapid round because I know we went a little bit long on question two and three. Um, who has been an incredible source of inspiration for you or a voice of wisdom for you in your creative journey?
The quickest thing in podcasting is there's a podcast called Red Pilled America
Oh yeah.
that I really enjoy because they do storytelling
Yeah.
and but from a different perspective. And I really enjoy what they bring to the table.
Right.
And I think I'd already started my podcast when I ran into them, but it was just really, just the way that it's well produced,
Yeah.
it's so well done. So I think that inspired me to like raise the game
And let me
when it
ask you if
came
you
my
do
turn.
this, because I know songwriters and music producers do this. Like, do you take even ideas as cues? So, for example, a producer, I remember one time I was listening to Coldplay. This is years ago. I was jogging, okay? And I remember I hear a really reverberated snare on the eight, but it was only on the
Hmm.
eight. And I'm like, man, I love that. And I was here, it's like, so I'm just gonna be really nerdy. I don't even care because podcast, you're supposed to be candid, right? So in other words, it's like, right, like all of a sudden the snare is in a big concrete room, okay?
Hmm.
And I'm like, I wonder if other people do that. And I go to like three other artists that I love. So I opened up Matt Carney. Like I stopped running and I was like, it was so obvious. I'm like, I'm gonna see if other people do this. I go to Matt Carney, every song. I played song
Hmm.
one, song two, same thing. They got to snare eight, and I'm like, this is like a producer trick. And I opened up other artists, same thing. And I was like, this is so good. And it just created a cool like separation from line one to line two. So you always want these separations of this verse to this pre-chorus or this pre-chorus to chorus or whatever. But I will do that as a producer. I'll go, okay, tambourine just on the four. Or those
Hmm.
harmonies, because it's country, they're going to be panned hard right and panned hard left, not center right and center left, like worship music is. And
Hmm.
anyway, like are there things in podcasting where you took some ideas and you're like, that's a brilliant idea. I'm gonna try that.
I think I think with where they're concerned, I think it's just, and I don't duplicate what they do,
Sure. But
but
for inspiration, I mean.
yeah, certainly. I mean, just I think the way they structure it,
Right.
um, and I think there was some helpful hints there for me to get started.
Right.
And I'm very careful about because it's easier with this. In music, it's impossible to not trounce on somebody's yard.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think in podcasting, there's a lot of free space,
Right. Right.
So I'm trying very hard to not be affected
Yeah.
by anybody else. But they've certainly inspired me, and I've been able to connect with them on
Nice.
X.
That's awesome.
They have a really great advantage too because they're a married couple.
Okay.
They can switch as narrators, so you've got a female and a male voice,
Right.
which I think makes it much more attractive to the listener.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't have that, and
Well, just
I'm
the
really
change, just the change of pitch.
exactly.
Yep.
And the I'm trying. I don't want to use AI
Right.
narration. I'm trying to avoid that. I did for one. I did for the intro of one of my episodes, but it
Hmm.
was a quoting from the book Animal Farm, and so I found a female British
Yeah.
voice to use for
Yeah.
that. But that's the
You
only
you
time
didn't
I've
you didn't
used.
feel like attempting to channel your
Yeah,
inner
and trying to
female.
be Mary Poppins for.
Hello, we're gonna go to the jungle and die today.
Oh my word. So yeah,
Sorry.
I
Too much coffee. Sorry.
well no, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah. So I would love to do that. Maybe if if I get more successful, I could bring in a second narrator or something like that. But
Yeah. But I
so
just I
yeah,
just
but they're
love
really
that
good.
question. I love that question because we all are inspired by people,
Yeah.
you know, um, and even like what I was saying about the production, there's been numerous times where I'm listening to some of my favorite artists, like let's say it's Matt Carney or whoever, and I'm going, oh, the acoustic is like close. Like that microphone is 2 inches from that guitar. I love that sound. I want to try that. And I just want
Mm.
artists to know, like that's okay. Like that's
Hmm.
normal in creating. Like it's not okay to take their melody and their song structure and their
Right.
lyrics and be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do the same thing." No, I'm not saying that, but it's okay to be inspired by techniques and ideas. Like that's as common as the sky being blue, or if you live in Ohio, the sky being gray.
Yes.
But anyway,
I'm hoping I can get, because I'm not successful enough right now. I would love to get really interesting people to interview
hmm
for these things.
right,
I've made attempts, but I'm kind of a nobody still in the space, so I don't really hear back from anyone yet. Whereas I know they on their podcast, they they're able to really snag some interesting people.
right, and that'll
And
come. That'll come in
yeah,
time, and just knowing that you want that, just reaching out, all of that is part of it, man. Well, let me ask the last question. Let me scroll
okay.
to my list here. How can people learn more about you? I know the MattCast is right there on Spotify, but why don't you give them the best website or the best social handles that you would prefer? And I'll make sure I put them on the screen when I go to do the editing.
Yeah, website is Matt Ministry, mattministry.com. And that's pretty much everything that we offer
Okay.
and
And
our
that's probably got the
archives.
and that's got the links, I'm sure, to some of the other stuff, right?
Yeah,
mattministry.com.
there you go.
Awesome, man. Well, Matt, I really appreciate, you being a part of my very first podcast for Ask Think Imagine. I love where we camped the most, which was, how to put in the work and to know and to just talk about that it's going to be work sometimes, and that's okay.
Mm.
It's required. I love that we landed there. So I appreciate you, man.
Love you, dude. Thanks for being my
Love you, man.
friend.
All right, so I'll cut the video there. And then I need a quick 30-second break. I'm
Yeah,
gonna grab a water and I want
I
to
think
plug
I
in my
do.
power cord
Yeah, I
because
need to do that too. So.
my power is gonna die here in a minute.
Mm.